So I wanted to compare team wheels to pro wheels, and when I went to switch the wheels between the two bikes, I found this. So the team wheel is through axle. The pro wheel is bolt on. So can't just transfer one to the other, or even vice versa. Now, the arcade can accept a through axle, but I don't have the axle, and the one from the 4-play fork is too long. So we're going to have to get creative to do this comparison, but I think we can make it work. So this is what the full axle assembly looks like pulled out of the Pro hub. What it looks like pulled apart with the new, bigger bearing next to the old bearing. Putting in the bigger 17mm bearing. And this is turning the axle. I didn't get a lot of good clips of this, so I kind of just compiled what I had. I had to take a piece of aluminum big enough for the head of the axle and then turn down the axle shaft and cut the threads in the end of it and cut the countersink to adapt into the fork, and almost screwed it up a couple times, but so as you can see in the clip, I'm being very careful to bring this down to size slowly to make sure that it is perfect size. Typically I would set up something like this in one of the CNCs or a more consistent setup, but being that I'm only making one, kind of just measuring and cutting as needed. The next thing that I had to do was drill a hole through this axle end to end. I'm not sure if this is totally necessary, but I'm basically copying my 4-play through axle from Inspired. So whatever they did, I made sure that the arcade axle matched what they had done. No reason not to. I'm not trying to sell these axles. I'm just trying to make one to work on my bike, betting that Inspired knows a lot more about making these axles than I do. So in this clip here, what I'm doing is turning the center spacer that will fit in between the two bearings in the hub. Since I'm completely changing the bearings in the hub to make a bigger gap for an axle, I need to be able to put spacer in between to support the inner race of the bearings. Otherwise, when you clamp the axle tight, it'll just push the inner race inwards and strain the balls of the ball bearing, so much so to ruin it prematurely. Had to go steel the 4-play axle to come back and make sure that it fit, and once it goes through, clean fit, and we're all set to go. So this is a picture of the finished product. From left to right, you have the bolt with a countersunk washer, bearing support sitting on top of the axle, the new bearing with a 17mm ID and the same 30mm OD, a center support with a small step to keep itself centered on the bearings, then the second bearing, another bearing support, and the head of the axle that fits into the fork. It ended up getting black anodized after I made sure everything fit, and here it is on the bike. Here it is mounted up with the Pro wheel, which I had to rework the hub on, so the hub got new bearings and all the good parts, and the arcade got a new axle. This will allow me to flip my two different sets of wheels, my Pro wheels and my team wheels, back and forth between the bikes. So look out for the comparison video, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and come back for more.